Hello everyone, this video will focus on IP strategy for cell therapy companies. This video will be structured into 5 parts. What is IP or intellectual property? What is IP strategy for cell therapy companies? What are the types of patents in cell therapy? IP strategy basics, and finally, IP strategy advanced. Part 1. What is IP? IP refers to intellectual property. To understand what IP strategy is, we first need to understand what IP refers to. Let's start from the fundamentals. The basics of an economic system involve markets for labor, capital, products, and services. However, an advanced economy will require markets for ideas, knowledge, information, and intellectual products. This represent intangible assets that are difficult to buy and sell. If there is no market for intellectual property, any creative work or idea can be exploited without cost by anyone in the society. When this happens, no one will be incentivized to invest the time and effort to contribute to the marketplace of ideas. Therefore, intellectual property rights exist to protect these intangible assets with patents, trademarks, trade secrets, copyrights, and design rights. For the purposes of cell therapy IP strategy, we will only focus on relevant IP such as patents, trademarks, and trade secrets. Patents are the most important type of IP. Patents are filed to regulatory bodies by companies or individuals. It rewards the people who file it with a temporary exclusive right of the patent function. This right is effectively a monopoly right to any idea that covers the technical information stated in the patent. This is a reward for the disclosure of technical information and the effort invested to produce it. Patents allow an advanced economy to incentivize R&D by providing recognition and temporary ownership of the invention. It also allows an advanced economy to disseminate the technological developments in the patent for other users to improve the economy of a country and the standard of living of its people. A patent basically says that, in return for sharing your idea with the public, I will exclude other people from using the ideas in your invention for a period of time. It is an artificial barrier of entry enforced by the legal jurisdiction of a country. The length of time varies, but is typically 15 to 20 years. The patent owner must pay maintenance fees during this time. The most important concept of a patent is exclusivity. A patent excludes anyone from practicing the ideas stated in the invention, but it does not guarantee that the owner has a license to practice their own invention. It is therefore only a tool to block others from practicing an invention. Therefore, it can be thought of as an anti-license, or a tool of enforcement, used to block others from using the idea. This distinction will have huge implications for a company planning their IP strategy. Remember that we labeled patents as anti-licenses, as they only provide exclusivity but do not give affirmative permission to work on a product. Freedom to operate, or FTO, refers to the technological coverage of our cell product and helps us understand the potential infringement on competitor patents. IP strategists must conduct FTO analysis by flagging out potential blocking patents and adapt accordingly. Cell therapies require clear FTO as they are more so a process than a product. FTO extends to the entire manufacturing journey with multiple steps and technologies. It is more likely that an infringement occurs somewhere along this process. Also, the FTO is a requirement as part of acquisition due diligence and should be conducted as early as possible for an IP strategist. Let's say, for example, biotechnology company A creates an optimized adjustment of inflammatory factors to a cell manufacturing process to produce a highly potent immunosuppressive cell population. However, the manufacturing process for the cell population has been patented recently by biotechnology company B. Biotech A is in theory allowed to practice the improvement, but is not allowed to practice the actual manufacturing process. Therefore, it must cross-license its patent with Biotech B in order to practice its improvement upon the manufacturing process. At the same time, Biotech B is not allowed to practice the improvement unless it cross-licenses with Biotech A. We will explore more examples in the next few sections. Another type of IP is a trademark. Trademarks refers to the names and symbols used by manufacturers to identify their products. They are essentially brand names. Famous trademarks in medicine include Panadol, aspirin, and Ozempic. They allow biotechs to differentiate their products to customers and, unlike patents, trademarks do not expire as long as a maintenance fee is paid. Therefore, they are used to maintain the reputation of a manufacturer and prevents other similar products from gaining the same amount of popularity. Trademarks are incredibly valuable to companies, and a recognizable trademark can dramatically increase its licensing value. For example, you have a trademark cell therapy that is known for being associated with high cancer survival. A private hospital may want to use your cell therapy in their combination therapy and use your trademark to advertise to their customers. For some reason, the partnership becomes a liability. You can also withdraw your license and distance yourself from the private hospital. Biotechs often complement trademarks and patents to manage their intellectual property. The final type of IP relevant to cell therapy is what we will call a trade secret. A trade secret refers to confidential information involving the manufacturing of a biotech cell product that is undisclosed to the public. Trade secrets can often become patents, but for some reason a biotech has decided that the disclosure of the information is not worth the legal protection obtained by the patent. A trade secret can be a highly effective way to slow down competition as the competitor's access to critical information is restricted. Therefore, a biotech will always communicate to its employees what information within a company belongs to a trade secret and sign confidentiality agreements. A trade secret's value does not expire, but a biotech must take extra precautions to maintain the security of the trade secret. Trade secrets can be lost when key individuals leave the company or through agreements with other companies. Since it is not legally protected, its value is immediately diminished if it is disclosed publicly. When implementing an IP strategy, a biotech will consider the benefits and costs between patenting a trade secret versus maintaining the confidential information within the company. To summarize, intellectual property refers to intangible assets like patents, trademarks, trade secrets, copyrights, and design rights. For cell therapy biotech companies, patents, trademarks, and trade secrets are necessary to execute a coherent overall strategy. As you can see, if a biotech strategically manages the times when it files its patent application, together with subsequent applications of trade secrets and trademarks, it can greatly prolong the value of its intellectual properties. This will also increase its overall market value, if, for example, it were to be acquired by a larger pharmaceutical company. Part 2. IP Strategy for Cell Therapy Companies. IP strategy is a plan that consists of a set of decisions an organization makes with its intellectual property to achieve a long-term goal. There are many types of IP strategies, but for biotechs and other high-tech industries, a patent strategy is a minimum requirement to receive funding from investors. This is because most biotechs do not generate any revenue for the first 5 to 10 years of their existence. This early period is dedicated to R&D and performing clinical trials with the aim of commercializing their therapy in the long term and hopefully reaping huge financial rewards. Before any therapy hits the market, patents will be the biotech's key asset, and the IP strategy, the important plan to maximize the value of the patent. This plan is also a form of assurance for investors. They highlight the promise of a therapy pipeline and protection for future therapies. Because the strategy is narrative in nature, experienced biotech investors usually do not need this information, but many sector agnostic investors or generalist investors without experience in biotechnology require patent strategies for their investment due diligence. The key concept that we need to remember before we proceed to cell therapy IP strategy is that the product is the process. The cell identity is shaped by the manufacturing process we use to create it. A cell is a living organism, and it is impossible to patent a cell population as it changes over time. Therefore, a single cell therapy will consist of multiple patents that cover its entire manufacturing journey up until delivery into the body, such as sourcing of cells, equipment used, cryopreservation methods, and specific surface protein markers. As mentioned before, a patent is a biotech's core asset. It acts as an enforcement tool, preventing competitors from accessing your invention. Therefore, a patent strategy requires a biotech to carefully understand its technological area, where it can operate, and where it may infringe on the patents of other companies. If we think of an area of technology in terms of a landscape, a patent is a tool for us to shape, revise, and improve various terrains of the landscape as we see fit. A patent is represented on such a map with a circle enclosing the technical solutions in the claims of a patent, with the size of the circle indicating the scope of coverage for the patent. A biotech will have a portfolio of patents and think of ways to use them carefully to outwit a competitor. The biotech will continuously conduct analysis with its IP department to understand the relevance of other patents and potential existing or future infringement and interdependencies. IP strategists will work with the biotech's R&D team to combine different types of rights to increase the protection of their cell products. They will also engage in collaborations and enter into licensing agreements. All these actions will increase the number of layers of protection, interdependency, and branding for the product, even after patent expiry. Alternatively, the IP strategists can go on the offensive and enforce the rights of their biotech through litigation and filing blocking patents to deny competitors working on the same technology. At the same time, the IP strategists will collect and consolidate market information and communicate it to other departments in order to align its strategy with the biotech's R&D and financing strategy. Part 3. Types of patents. Firstly, only 1 out of 10 patents become commercially significant, and many patent analysts refer to commercially unviable patents as junk patents. If we exclude factors such as regulatory incompetence, the need for professional recognition, and random patent filings, why do biotechs still file so many patents? This gets into the heart of IP strategy, the management of patents. In our knowledge-based industry, patents are key competitive advantages for biotechnology companies. We will see that an IP strategist can classify patents in 2 ways. The first way is to classify patents as either broad or narrow, and the second way is to classify patents as core, peripheral, or strategic. If IP strategy is a game of chess, let us analyze different chess pieces on the board. Firstly, we have broad patents and narrow patents. Broad patents contain language that discloses many different aspects of an invention and excludes a huge area of technology. Filing a broad patent takes money and time and is done when a biotech expects it to be very valuable. Narrow patents exclude a specific piece of technology and can include narrow claims such as an operating temperature range or specific improvements for a prior patent. Narrow patents build on previously patented inventions. An additional way to classify patents is through core patents, peripheral patents, and strategic patents. Core patents are competitive advantages for the cell product and are filed to regulators early in a biotech's development. There are 4 categories of core patents in cell therapy: composition of matter patents, manufacturing patents, delivery patents, and characterization or release criteria patents. A composition of matter patent is the number one asset a biotechnology company strives to acquire. It refers to a type of language written in a patent that implies a broad coverage over the cell product, regardless of how it is made or used. A manufacturing patent is also incredibly important. It includes specifications that allow cell products to be manufactured in a scalable and cost-effective manner. It creates a long-term barrier of entry for competitors and may protect cell products after the first composition of matter patent expires by making it difficult for competitors to design an effective manufacturing solution to copy our original product. A delivery patent refers to the method of delivering cells to the right place in the body and depends on the exact type of therapy. It could be critical to the product as cells often have issues migrating from the bloodstream to the site of injury or disease. Lastly, a characterization or release criteria patent includes the critical quality attributes or CQAs of a product. It refers to a defined set of criteria for cells to meet after manufacturing as part of quality control. These can include a cell surface marker profile or a viability threshold. In cell therapy, every batch, known as a lot, must meet these release criteria before it can be administered to patients. Peripheral patents are patents that refine the cell product with the aim to make it more time-consuming and expensive for competitors to compete. They are filed after approval of core patents. Peripheral patents can be classified in 2 categories: process optimization patents and commercialization patents. Firstly, process optimization patents are claims on accessory devices or manufacturing methods that are additions to the manufacturing process, such as a type of high-throughput cell manufacturing equipment or the addition of inflammatory factors to improve potency. They do not block the manufacturing of the cell product. Second, commercialization patents are claims that help to bring the therapy to market, such as dosage regimens or devices for drug delivery. The last category of patents are strategic patents. This is the most nuanced category and are used by IP strategists to respond to external competition. Strategy patents are claims that intentionally block a competitor from a technology or improve a company's negotiating position for licensing or acquisition. They overlap with the definitions of core and peripheral patents but are separated by their objective. We can categorize strategic patents into 2 categories: leveraged and fencing patents. Firstly, fencing patents are claims that a biotech does not need to file, but still do, to block a competitor. Fencing patents create a choke point to control a niche area of technology. The most common type of fencing patent is a cover assay, or potency measurement. This type of patent covers an analytical method to measure the characteristics of a lot of cells. This forces a competitor with a similar product to infringe on your analytical method if they want to measure its potency for regulatory approval, forcing the competitor to come up with another solution or enter into an in-licensing agreement with you. Second, leverage patents are claims that help a biotech to commercialize their cell therapy and are developed with the objective to avoid their therapy from being blocked by competitor patents. In the event of a competitor trying to block our product, we will counter-sue with our leverage patent, resulting in a cross-licensing agreement. For example, if we have a patented cell culture medium suitable for large-scale manufacturing, and a competitor has a patent on the accessory devices involved in this manufacturing process, we have an opportunity to exchange rights with the competitor if they decide to sue us. Part 4. IP Strategy Basics. Let us proceed to the basics of IP strategy. Implementing an IP strategy is a cognitive exercise by nature, and I will present a framework to understand how it works. We will return to the landscape analogy, where the land represents the technology area and patents represent fortifications that exclude an area to operate. The IP strategist of a cell therapy biotech is presented with a patent portfolio and has multiple options to proceed. At the early stage, a rigorous analysis of the landscape is conducted to review the fog of war and freedom to operate. This intelligence allows the IP strategist to begin designing a strategy to target potential roadblocks. The first type of strategy is patent blanketing or flooding. This strategy introduces numerous patents throughout the cell manufacturing process to mine the technological area with traps. Flooding simply refers to a less systemic way of introducing these patents. This strategy is common in an emerging technological area where uncertainty is high and it is difficult to value patents. Therefore, our biotech will lay down a minefield of patents and perhaps junk patents to slow down competitors. Fencing is a strategy where a series of patents are used to block certain directions of R&D from competitors, such as variants of manufacturing processes, temperature conditions, or pressure conditions. They are often intentionally used for life cycle management of a cell therapy product, essentially extending the lifespan of a cell therapy's exclusivity period. The goal is to rely on patents to cover every conceivable aspect of the therapy. Surrounding is a strategy where a core competitor patent is surrounded by our patents, which blocks the commercial use of the competitor's core patent. Surrounding is offensive in nature and used with the intention of acquiring the technology in the core patent through cross-licensing, typically targeting an early core patent filed by a competitor. Walling is a strategy where our biotech files patents in one specific direction for more impact, with the assumption that the competitor will surpass them eventually. This strategy is usually done when a company's research and development ability is high and is able to continuously keep ahead of its competitors. When the competitor has caught up, the biotech already has newer patents that has made the original patents obsolete. Combination into patent networks is a strategy of building a patent portfolio with multiple configurations to strengthen the overall protection of cell products to improve the negotiating power of the biotech. Although not a cell therapy, AbbVie's blockbuster drug, Humira, is the perfect example of patent strategy. By the time the drug's primary patent has expired, AbbVie has already filed 247 patents related to the drug. Their patent strategy has delayed the entry of competitors for years, preserving billions of dollars of revenue. As typical within the biotechnology industry, our biotech will run into roadblocks in the form of blocking patents. What happens when we do not have the ability to overcome these restrictions through in-house R&D? In these cases, licensing is the main path to acquiring freedom to operate. Licensing involves negotiating an agreement with the patent holder to pay a sum of money in exchange for the right to use their technology. Licensing agreements provide royalties for the sale of final invention and can be extremely lucrative for biotechs with the right patent strategy. Some biotechs plan their patent strategy around signing licensing agreements where their sole source of revenue is the licensing of technology. The licensors allow the biotech to recover the cost of inventing and continue to engage in research to create more patents for licensing agreements. Licensing fees vary widely, and it is common for a royalty of 5% of gross sales or 25% of net profits for the products involved in the licensing invention. It may also include upfront payments depending on the licensing agreement. If two companies' patents block each other, they can negotiate a cross-licensing agreement where they trade rights to their respective patents. Some biotechs can also choose not to license and block the technology if they feel that they are the only company able to develop products from the patent. What happens when the biotech has successfully commercialized its first product? When a biotech already has a cell product, the IP strategists working with the R&D and financing departments of the company can make multiple decisions. Number one, it can invest in improvements to the existing technology, achieving a scaling effect. The scaling effect represents patents complementing each other and raising the original value of previous patents. Number two, it can invest in a new product based on new technology. Number three, it can invest in a hybrid product based on both existing and new technology, known as a gap filler. Number four, it can introduce a new technology based on the existing generation in an evolutionary manner. Number five, it can abandon the technology and proceed to another new technological area. And lastly, number six, it can do nothing and adopt a wait-and-see approach. As you can see from this quote by the marketing coordinator of Metso Denmark, companies are also managing their portfolio of IP and continuously reviewing their products to fit the strategy of the business. As with any key principle of strategy, IP strategists must also constantly gather intelligence by continuously monitoring their technological landscape. The IP strategists must know when key competitors file new patent applications, the legal status of any relevant patents, and notify other departments in the company once new threats are identified and adapt to an updated company strategy. This scouting process is perpetual and never done for a biotech. Similar to continuous monitoring, throughout the strategy process, the IP strategists must create a technological document that breaks down their product into fundamental features. This document also contains a clear, dated record of the IP analysis at specific points in time. Documentation ensures continuation of strategic planning by ensuring that the thinking behind strategy is not lost. This document will be used to communicate strategy as most employees in the company do not participate in the strategy process. Part 5. IP Strategy Advanced. In the biotechnology industry, countless patent wars are occurring as we speak and will continue to occur as long as this industry grows. Some famous patent wars include the legal battle over CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology and CAR-T cell therapy for cancer. This is entirely to be expected for any healthily functioning biotech industry. In this dynamic industry, the IP strategists must go beyond the fundamentals and examine in detail their biotech's strategy. This section will cover some other concepts in IP strategy for cell therapy, and I will label all of them as advanced IP strategy for simplification. The IP strategists must remember that they are a small piece in the larger whole of a biotechnology company. The core fuel of a biotechnology company is investor funding, and investor confidence must be maintained with sufficient legal shields and clear strategic direction. The IP strategists must review their patent strategy several times a year while continuously examining the purpose of every existing patent and ongoing application. Patent management on a tactical level must also be constantly reviewed against any changes in the underlying science. The IP strategists must also consider the commercial needs of the biotech when making decisions. A higher level of strategy also includes predicting the competitor's strategy, partly due to experience, partly due to monitoring competitors' new registrations, and partly due to networking. Many biotechnology companies working in the same technological area often are very familiar with one another, perhaps having once worked in the same lab or shared the same mentor, thereby belonging to the same academic lineage tree. This knowledge will inform their decisions on whether to spend substantial resources to introduce blocking or leverage patents. Enforcement strategy refers to the proactive enforcement on instances where patent infringement has occurred. This is done to send a clear signal to potential violators. Enforcement is extremely costly for a biotech, but ignoring the infringement could be more costly in the long term. A defensive publication, also known as an open default, refers to when a biotech intentionally discloses an invention to the public instead of patenting it. It usually does this by publishing their invention in an academic journal. The aim of a defensive publication is used to destroy the novelty of future patent applications that may cover the same technological area. Biotechs use defensive publications if they want to avoid patenting costs and wish to steer regulatory and academic standards toward their preferred methods. Prior art refers to any previously disclosed public information that is relevant to the patent. The IP strategist usually will mention the closest prior art while preparing a patent application. The existence of close prior art will narrow a claim and limit its scope. Remember that a patent does not always guarantee exclusivity. It can be challenged and invalidated. If prior art is found for a patent that has not been discovered by regulators, it can be challenged and removed. Finally, some common mistakes in IP strategy made by strategists include: Number 1. Valuing patents too highly. Filing a patent means that high-level concepts of the invention is disclosed to all potential competitors. This loss of secrecy may not be beneficial to a biotech, and sometimes it may be better to keep an invention a trade secret rather than a patent. Number 2. Assuming patent protection equals permission. As mentioned before, a patent excludes rather than permits. Assuming that an invention is valuable because it has patents is a mistake. The bigger context of competitive positioning must be considered when deciding to file a patent. Otherwise, the biotech will end up patenting inventions with no clear benefit to R&D, commercialization, or licensing negotiations. Number 3. Assuming broad patents are more valuable. By nature, a broad coverage patent is difficult to do and enforce because competitors can easily find creative improvements to reduce the coverage of a broad patent. Narrow patents, like peripheral patents in combination with broad patents, help to develop a synergistic protection for a company's sell product. Number 4. Assuming more patents equals to a stronger competitive position. Having patents does not necessarily improve the competitive position of a biotech. If the claims of a patent application are severely restricted, the value of it may not be worth the maintenance cost in the first place. Holding on to many worthless patents is a drain on the funds of a biotech and will reduce its profitability. Number 5. Attempting to value patents and put a price tag on them financially. The IP strategists should be careful not to provide an assessment of the value of their patents portfolio. This is not their domain and should be left to potential investors or the finance department. It's extremely difficult and requires a different set of skills that the IP strategist is usually not prepared to do. That's all for this video. Thank you for listening. If you are interested to know more, I have included my references in the video description.